Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathan. I am one of the co-founders and an executive director of the Election Truth Alliance. This video, we're going to keep it pretty short and pretty simple. We're going to talk legal updates. So I think as you are familiar, we started the Election Truth Alliance back in December of 2024, right after the election. We have built this organization as a nonpartisan nonprofit organization, and we have brought together volunteers from all over the world with experience in data analysis, statistics, political science, and fraud detection in multiple ways, cybersecurity in my case. And so this update is going to go over where we are in our two major lawsuits that we've been talking about. I'm going to give you some details, and I'm going to give you kind of the timeline. So we'll jump right into it. So two major legal campaigns right now that we've been working on. And the first one we are aiming to have filed by mid-September. We were aiming for end of August. We've had a few things shift us around just a little bit. We actually got more information, more evidence that let us, adjust our pursuit. And then our other lawsuit is still pending a licensed lawyer to help us actually file that lawsuit, but we've been putting that evidence together. And that one is for Florida, and I can talk about that one a little bit more. We'll be releasing some reports here in the near future about what we are finding in Florida. But that other lawsuit, we've kept that pretty close to our chest until we get to the actual filing. We have our data, and we have our additional evidence or findings. We've talked about this pretty publicly so far. I know Smart Elections has also talked about this in their lawsuit in Rockland County, New York. But generally speaking, there is a concern based on statistical evidence and then additional evidence that the 2024 election has some problems. So in our first lawsuit, we will actually be talking about the evidence supporting concerns of a compromise of the voting systems, the tabulation or the vote counting computers specifically. There are some caveats to that. It is a little complex, but generally speaking, the digital counting of the votes. We are very concerned that there's a compromise of the digital counting of the votes, that it impacted the 2024 presidential election and even down ballot races. And reminder, nearly 100% of all of the votes cast in 2024 were counted digitally by a machine of some type of somewhere. And we're looking at the top three systems all across the US as being of concern. But in our first lawsuit, we're focusing on one system specifically, in one location. And we have put together both the statistical concerns, but also can we trust the machines, and what have we found to support or not support that. So that will be coming out in that first filing. We don't want to talk too much about it before we get to that point, as per our legal advice there. But we can talk a little bit more about the second concerns, or the second filing, which is Florida. So Florida, we have the same concerns of the tabulation, the vote counting systems being compromised and being manipulated. And we also have concerns of the voter database playing a hand in this potential manipulation, meaning you've compromised the voter database, you're messing with voter registration, you're potentially creating voters that don't exist, you're voting for voters who didn't vote. These are the types of things we're starting to find as we're digging into Florida and other places. And what's interesting is I actually flew to Florida. I went to Florida. I met some locals that were interested in working with us, and we did some on-the-ground investigation using our statistical analysis. We said, hey, where are the most anomalous places in Florida, these counties, these precincts? And we took that data. We got their voter registration data for some of these places, and we actually went and we started investigating locations. And for example, we found some locations where voters voted in the 24 election, yet were not eligible to have voted and did not live in the counties at the time they were closing on houses. And so it's very interesting that we started finding that, where you've potentially been digitally voting for voters that should not have been able to vote and didn't vote per their own accounts. We're also finding issues of a bunch of different registration, a bunch of different active voters who voted in the 24 election who were registered, but then their registration raises flags for not actually being real residential addresses or being real voters. So these are things we're investigating and we're finding in Florida. We'll be releasing reports as we go forward, but we'll also be releasing this into a complaint or a lawsuit when we get everything put together for that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We get more specific, we have more data points, but these are the types of things we're finding. And as I said, our statistical analysis all across the US has highlighted concerns of some type of vote manipulation. as we've started digging deeper, we are very concerned about the systems being used and the databases for the voters as well. And so really what's important here, and I'll jump into the next part, we are concerned because these systems will be used in the midterms. And if they have been compromised, and as we go forward in our lawsuits, that's really what we're showing, is we're showing, hey, there is reasonable evidence that these systems have been compromised. They have been used to manipulate votes. We cannot use them in the midterms. So really that is our call to action, is if we want the midterms to be free, fair, safe, and secure, these systems are already currently, on track to being used. And that is not what we need to make sure our elections are being run correctly going forward. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the other half of this. So I'm sure as you're familiar, since we started doing this, since the beginning, we're pretty confident at this point, right? No one is going to come in at the last minute and save us here, right? No one is going to swoop in and help us or come in and say, hey, here it is. Here's all the evidence. Here's the proof. We're going to have to do it ourselves. And it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take you guys helping us. And I'll say, as we go forward with these lawsuits and we go forward and working with these different state governments that may or may not want to come to the table as we, have our first lawsuit, it's a little disappointing because the people who could have done something about this, the people whose jobs were to investigate this and make sure our elections were free and fair and safe and secure, at this point, it seems like they failed to do so. And it's even more frustrating because the election was certified and multiple experts were warning there were problems with the election that warranted an investigation. And it's either through complacency or complicity that nothing has been done. And so it's fallen to us. And that's really what it is, right? Is we want answers. We want justice. We want to make sure that every American has the opportunity to vote and that their vote is being counted. And it's really going to take all of us working together and standing up for this to get the change we need. It is up to us. And so I say that because you guys have been with us from the beginning. You guys are amazing. The amount of support is insane. But we have been catching a lot of attention, both negative and positive, as we go forward and get closer to these lawsuits. So I want to highlight, if you guys do want to donate, right, to help pay for the legal actions, to keep the lights on for us, I think we're somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 a month in just upkeep costs right now, because we're running different servers, we're running different statistical analysis. We've got all kinds of complex systems going on in the background. And so we do need, as we go forward and we step into legal action, to pay for the legal costs. The legal costs are going to skyrocket as we get into these filings and grow things out. So if you are able to donate, please go to electiontruthealliance.org. We're going to be more transparent as we go forward about where we are, almost like monthly or weekly updates on our campaigns. That's a lot of work, so we've had to bring in people, or we're still hunting for people who can help manage that. But if you want to go donate, go to electiontruthealliance.org, go to /donate. And here's what's important, is we have this, it's under Get Involved, it's donate here, but we added this now. You can see our top donations and our average donations, $33 is pretty good. And if you do want to donate, and there's by the way, at the bottom here, there's, anonymous, and you can actually, put your information, or you can do anonymous. And so there's a little leaderboard. But if you do want to donate, when you hit this button, it's loading for me, you can specify if you want to do a one-time or a monthly donation. If you are able to do even like $5 a month as an automated donation, that would be great, just because we currently get like a lot of people will do kind of one-time big donations and then they'll wait a little bit. And so we'll have a big spike and then we'll drop down. So honestly, if you guys are able to donate even just $5 a month, that helps us at least have a more stable amount of donations so that we can kind of estimate and work with that and plan our budget as we go forward. So please, if you can donate, if you can, don't burden yourself. I understand times right now, focus on yourself, make sure you're taken care of, but if you can, help us fight this fight, please. Newsletter. This is what's important. We are being heavily suppressed. The ETA, election concerns in general, are being heavily suppressed online. We're talking YouTube is even hitting us pretty hard. You know, don't get me started on TikTok and some of the other social media platforms. We have people who've had hundreds of thousands of subscribers or followers on their TikToks, and their accounts get deleted because they say the things that we're concerned about. So what's important here is, if you want consistent updates, right? If you want to get access to our information as we go, it may not be as reliable to use social media at large. So please sign up for our newsletter. Our goal is to use this newsletter more often so that you can get those weekly or bi-weekly updates when we put them out, and it'll have all of the stuff, and you can be able to go watch our videos from that, because you may not get notifications right now through traditional means. I think, as I probably said a few times, I never once thought before the 2024 election, I never once cared about politics, never once cared about elections really beyond just the normal thing. And really the 2024 election brought so many of us together, both within the ETA and, you know, I'm seeing a lot of Americans all over the place that are coming together because we care about our democracy. We care about our future. And I think what's important here is, as we go forward and we fight this fight, as I've said, it is up to us. It is up to the people to stand up for what is right, to stand up for accountability and for justice. And if our elections are being manipulated, that is a big deal. Even if we can't immediately do something right now, knowing is the first part of the battle. Knowing that it is happening, knowing that it will continue to happen, knowing just where to start is everything, because it is not only criminal to mess with elections, but our country and our democracy, that is foundational. Our voices, our choices is everything. And so if that is being manipulated, you deserve to know, and we deserve to do something about it. So thank you guys so much. As I said, I'm not going anywhere. The ETA is here for this fight. We're here to fight for you, because at this point, it does seem like we're going to have to lead the charge until hopefully we can get some state governments and civil rights organizations and other people to step up and fight this fight with us.